Hello and welcome to Uncut, a podcast which basically does a little bit of everything from directors, actors, and very silly genres. Because we could do subgenres, we could do serious subgenres, we could do any subgenres, but silly is best, and that's the Uncut way. For this week's episode, we are doing Yorgos Lanthimos, and to talk about his body of work and beyond, I am joined by Mike. Hello there,
Hi.
and Caitlyn.
Hello.
How are you both doing?
Doing good, as can
Yeah,
be.
really good.
It's
I think
October.
I think we got all our grumbles about the UK out just before we started recording, and now we're in a place of peace and ready.
Yeah.
Yeah. The British version is grr racists.
Yeah. A lot of that.
And we'll save that because I don't want those people finding this video and just reams of hateful bots underneath it.
That's fine.
It is what it is. So, usually at this point, I'd ask where people had heard of Yorgos Lanthimos, but it's obviously Dogtooth because that's where anybody heard of him, really, wasn't it?
Probably. Actually, I don't know. For me, it'd probably be the Lobster. I was a bit late to the
Oh, really?
game, I guess. It took him that's when I sort of I think I might have heard of Dogtooth, but I think that's definitely the first one I saw was the Lobster, and then I went back.
Yeah.
I watched Dogtooth, and then on all the things he did afterwards as well. So yeah, I was a bit late to the game.
Well, I think that's common for everybody because as popular as the Dogtooth seemed, not a lot of people watched it. I don't think, anyway.
Yeah, I think unless you're paying attention to what the Foreign Language Academy Awards for that year, and especially because that was the sort of the first thing people had seen of him at all. That was back in 2009 as well.
Yeah, I think that's the sort of first one he breaks out with, really, in terms of he'd done a few things sort of within Greece, but not it hadn't sort of escaped containment then, whereas this is sort of the first time that, because I think the more subversive horror tinged stuff does escape more because horror fans are more open to films with subtitles, films from different locations and everything like that. So I think it's sort of ideal that it gets picked up because it's not quite a horror film, but it's also not a horror film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a way of putting it.
Yeah. Okay, different question. And is he introduction to Greek cinema? Because I don't know any other Greek cinema. I mean, that was a hello for a lot of people. He was the figurehead of this new Greek weird wave, I think it was called at the time.
Yeah, well, I was reading in a thing about it, and even that's a bit of it's a thing that was sort of slapped onto there's a couple of films that came out that crossed the board. There's this and Attenberg, which I haven't seen, but I think
Yeah,
he
I
was
remember
involved
that.
in making. That came across. So it's just a few people broke through, and it became a wave, quote unquote. Even though it didn't actually have anything to do with each other, really.
Yeah, that is.
But yeah, it's something I've been curious about exploring because I know there's been stuff like was it called Apples? Was a film that came out a couple of years ago. But I can't. Yeah, I shamefully haven't dived into as much as I should have done.
It was a very slight scene. Yeah.
I think as well, it's completely different to something where sort of a group of filmmakers make up their own rules and call that a movement like Dogma 95 versus the things that get applied to them promotionally. Because it's all about selling those films. Like, oh, if you like Dogtooth, come check out this other weird Greek film. And actually, the sensibilities are very different. And not necessarily sort of working with the same technical constraints either. Again, thinking about something like Dogma 95, which had your rules for what you were making.
Very, very strict.
Yeah, absolutely. It feels very different when filmmakers organize themselves versus when they are organized.
I think especially with Greece, I don't think it has a strong film industry, so I think that's why they were sort of able to sort of do what they want to some degree because there isn't
I mean,
as much of a studio. You can not have studio interference because there isn't really that there.
I can never remember his name. what is Island of Death? Is that the name of it? The notorious 1970s movie.
Yeah.
Heard
The
of it,
guy who
yeah.
did that, the name is totally escaping me. He's done all sorts of weird things.
Mm.
That was my only real exposure to Greek cinema. Otherwise, oh, it was Island of Death, wasn't it? Like it was a video nasty, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nico
the problem is, of course,
Mastorakis. Sorry, I realised you can see me looking that up now. Now we got this video. Well, Nico
It's okay.
Mastorakis. I think Robin has written some stuff. Or was that a
Yeah.
different guy?
Nico Mastorakis is nuts. Yeah, he's basically his own film industry and award-winning, notorious or legendary DJ in Greece. It would just do whatever he
Wow.
wants, frankly. And he's his own film industry, so
Fair.
I kind of like when someone amasses that kind of power and uses it for weird and not sinister. Do you know what I mean? It's like, good, keep yourself out of trouble. Keep making weird films. That's fine.
Yeah.
his movies are very weird. He's a perverted man, is that Nico Mastorakis? But fair play to him. He's doing himself well.
He's made a career out of it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So on to the work of Yorgos Lanthimos. There's 3 movies we're going to do tonight. We were dabbling with others, but we settled on The Favourite, Killing of a Sacred Deer, and Dogtooth. So doing them chronologically, which I think is fine. So that's The Favourite. No, sorry, that's not right. It's Dogtooth first. Then no, let me just double check my chronology.
Yeah.
It's yes, Dogtooth, Killing of a Sacred Deer, and then The Favourite.
Yeah.
So
So it very nicely echoes how popular he gets as well.
Yeah. Well, I didn't
Sort
realise
of
that.
in the mainstream, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't realize that A Favourite was literally a year after Killing of a Sacred Deer. I was like, oh, right, that was way
Yeah.
closer together than I thought they were. Pretty interesting.
I mean, since then he's been on such a tear, making like movie after movie after movie.
You mean like it's like one every year, basically? It seems like at the moment.
I think like The Favourite, which was 2018. He's made what 1, 2. No, what year was that? 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 movies since then.
Yeah. Crazy.
Which very prolific.
And I think what's interesting is he's keeping the quality of the work,
Yeah.
and he's keeping like a stamp on it, even though obviously the way he's making his films has changed massively. From if you were to look at Dogtooth and look at Poor Things, I don't think you'd see
No, absolutely not. But here's the killer question: if it can be answered, what is Dogtooth about?
My internet's breaking up. No, it's not. I think primarily, and I think this applies across Lanthimos' work, is this sort of very difficult relationship he has with rules and with sort of the confinement that those rules create. So I think Dogtooth is more of a mood than it is sort of a strict narrative. But it kind of gives you all those rules, and the fact that the rules are sort of very bizarre and very changeable, and everything is sort of at the whim of the parents within Dogtooth. It is a satire, obviously, on fascist ideologies and everything like that. And it's also got this sense of fairy tale to it. And I'd also completely apply that to Killing of a Sacred Deer as well. It's it's this very dark fairy tale about rules.
I mean, in a sort of condescending, silly talking down to a movie where it's kind of what happens when you put the kids from Spider Baby in just the real world.
Very much that, yeah. I mean, it's such an interesting film as well, because obviously Yorgos Lanthimos starts out in sort of music videos and theatre and things like that. So there's always that sort of, you feel that in performances, most of all. And I think obviously we'll go on to talk more about what he's done, particularly for actresses in his films, because I think that's incredible. I don't think anybody is producing quite as many film roles with great roles for women, and ugly, messy roles, which is always wonderful to see. But yeah, I think I don't know. I've totally lost my train of thought. Sorry, my brain went out of my head.
It's
I mean, here's a question I have to pose. Does it have a hard time living up to the legacy that it's created? Because it has this reputation of being this incredibly dangerous, subversive, and debauched movie. And it is to an extent, but do you think it lives up to that reputation in 2025?
I know what you mean. I think it's not. It's a weird one that it's like I've seen it like 3 times, and each time I've come away like thinking like I've always felt like I've needed to watch it again because it's like I can't get a handle on it. And I think that's where it's not like shocking in your face style. It's more just like it's just really uncomfortable and awkward and
Yes.
just it's off. Everything's even just a simple thing of like these kids are being. I guess we haven't really said the plot. It's basically just a snapshot of his family who are basically like separated from the world, and these kids are basically living their own world, sort of led by their mum and dad. The mum teaches them words, but they're not the right words. So, like the first thing we hear is like a tape performance. And today's word is C. The C is an armchair that you sit in, and you get stuff like "Can you pass me the phone?" when they mean the salt. So even just that is just off of like you never when there's times when they'll use the words like, oh, do they mean literally gaffer tape or do they mean something else entirely? Like you don't you're not, and that, I mean that's what's impressive is that it builds this world for us to peek into. And we sort of learn, like you say about the rules, we sort of learn the rules, but we don't know them as well as they do because it's literally all they've ever known. So it's always going to feel off to as the outside world would feel off to them, like when a cat wanders in and they're absolutely terrified because it's like what they have absolutely no way to.
Not for cat
comprehend
viewers,
it.
this one. Just on that point, it's
No,
definitely not for people who love animals.
no,
Really.
no.
No.
It's interesting actually seeing them with Poor Things, which of course takes that, but it takes that from a single person's perspective, and it goes in a much more different way about someone who has no concept of the world, then understanding the world for the first time. So sort of actually again, it's an interesting how what themes and what ideas he sort of returns to like across his work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, awkward is the best way to describe it. I would agree with that entirely. Mike, Caitlyn?
Yeah, I think part of that awkwardness does stem from obviously his theatre background and the way he wants people to perform in that kind of quite stilted, stagey way. Because a lot of Dogtooth, it does feel very shot in as if it were on a stage. Then there's a lot to do with that confined environment, and obviously it's not stagey in the sense that you've got a lot of moving parts to bring in. It's just sort of we're doing this scene now, and it's you have everything you need for that scene before moving on, and certainly that like stilted awkwardness of performances, which it carries through all of his work. And again, like his music videos as well, almost you could boil down some of those scenes to, out of context, put music over them. Are they going to be something different? There's not a whole lot of need to cling to essentially a narrative within that because you're just living with these people.
Yeah, I mean, the theatre thing, to get down into the granulars of it, it's not like, I don't know, a mainstream theatre putting on Stranger Things or something and that sort of big spectacle. It's more sort of off Broadway, this little experimental theatre where they're doing something completely unique, and there's no sort of artifice to the way they're acting, but it's also pretty mannered and staged and weird.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which it's a rhythm that you have to find of his stuff, and then you put the incesty stuff in there too, and it just creates this. It upset a lot of people, this movie, but
do you know who it
I'm not
didn't
sure.
upset?
Well, any of us apparently.
Well, no, not any of us, but David Lynch called it the best comedy he'd ever seen.
Yes, I
Like,
saw that as well. Yeah,
which
fantastic comedy.
if someone said that about anything I'd made, I'd have it plastered everywhere. I'd probably have it tattooed on my forehead. Like,
Yeah.
because, and I can see that makes sense in terms of the kind of stuff that Lynch does, that he'd be very at home in that Yorgos Lanthimos world.
Definitely.
Yeah. The sort of the rhythm is very alike. I can't imagine a reality where Lanthimos was not inspired by Lynch. It just feels
Hmm.
too akin to this sort of counter reality, really. Because the thing is, this movie, it doesn't take place in any sort of. It seems almost apocalyptic
Hmm.
because when it
Yeah.
goes outside the confines of this garden and this home, there's just nothing.
Yeah, and I think when it's like you you have this thing that it doesn't care about where it's dropping you in. It's not giving you a whole bunch of exposition. It's just
Hmm.
like, this is the way things are in Twin Peaks. This is the way things are in the Dogtooth house. Get used to it, you know? um, which feels very disarming. And like, particularly in Dogtooth, where that is an incredibly sinister sort of setup and they are being manipulated. And it is at the whims of the parents and this anger that's underneath as well, that the parents are always acting in anger towards them. um
Yes, brutal instances of anger as well,
yeah,
with the violence. Absolutely. Beating people up with tapes, cassette tapes, or VHS tapes, like sellotape to people's hands.
yes.
Yeah.
And
Even
sorry, go ahead.
I was like, even just like making them sort of compete against each other with these this stickers and say again what this sort of feels like a completely arbitrary point systems and
Was
based on
chloroform as
others.
well, where they put
Yeah, that's
chloroform on
just
like a rag, and then says the first one to wake up wins. It's like that's
yeah.
just
Well, and that's the thing. That's a game they
sad.
come up with themselves, I presume. Like that's what it seems like. Like the opening scene is them talking about like let's run our hands under the hot tap and see who has to go first. And that's come out of the culture. Like that's something that's been drummed into. Of this is how we interact with each other. They will randomly, slit each other's arms with knives, and it's and I guess it's a clear the most obvious parallel is like the dad is. One a few times ago outside the house, and the dad's gone to try and collect his dog, and he's like, "Oh no, the dog was on stage 2 of training. He's got 3 more stages to go." And there's an obvious
Yeah.
parallel with like that's how they're treating. Because I don't think we really get. We must get their names. I don't know if we do get their names. Well, it doesn't like they refer to them by their names. They often look like the elder sister
Yeah,
or younger sister or elder boy. Like that's how they're sort of referred to, like their animals rather than
It's the
people.
dehumanizing thing, isn't it? The parallels of fascism. So yeah,
yeah,
um,
absolutely. And obviously I think the thing of when she has the tapes and she starts to echo the words from the tapes, and it's sort of, again, she's looking at this outside world that she's got no frame of reference for. Because I think we assume they've always been in the house. This is not that they used to be
Yeah.
outside and then they got changed into it. So she has absolutely no frame of reference for these outside forces. Um,
yeah,
and that I find interesting because it's just another layer. It's like, okay, you know how to make sense of this world. She doesn't, so she just starts echoing it.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's great because at times it feels, it has that kind of slowness of something like a Michael Haneke film even.
hmm,
And certainly the kind of brutality of that as well,
does.
because in a lot of Haneke films, I think particularly with Cachet, the violence comes out of nowhere. There's a long build up to it, but when it arrives, it's just as shocking, because you've sat in that tension for so long, of like, where normally a filmmaker would introduce that tension and then, great, let's cut to the violence. They really let you sit in it and feel it and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the lack of context does help as well. 'Cause it just creates a blank canvas for you to really process it in whatever way you want.
Yes.
Because you could see it as a fascism thing.
Mm-hmm.
it could be something that's uniquely Greek. I don't know. It also just it creates this weird vision of a reality that they all live within. Really,
Yeah.
having nothing explained. I mean, what are these stages? What are they building to? It's completely open to interpretation.
Yeah, even like the ending as well, like of yes, one of them gets out of the house, but has she got the? Is she even going to get out of the car? Like because that's as far as I know, the way out is the car,
Yeah.
and she has no. It's like she could just be in there and die. She might get out. He might catch her. There's no like. It doesn't even end in a way that's like, oh, okay, that's a satisfying narrative. It's like it just ends.
Yeah.
Yeah, because what would someone do with no frame of reference to the
Yeah.
outside world? Because as soon as she goes out and starts calling things the wrong name, she's instantly going to set herself apart as other or strange, and all of the sort of challenges that brings.
Absolutely.
It's by no means, oh great, she's escaped that and now she'll be safe.
Mm-hmm.
She's not going to be.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a hopeful ending.
No.
By any stretch of the imagination. But I think it does sit quite nicely with the kind of the style of European films that are coming out and making moves into the mainstream. The things that, for example, you used to be able to find on the shelves of Blockbuster. So you had your Hanekas, you had, all of that kind of thing, but you weren't getting smaller than that. You certainly weren't getting his first film, but you are getting Dogtooth because I think it had a little bit more funding and a little bit more reach. And certainly the Academy Award would have,
Yeah.
that nomination would have helped. But
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, the Academy don't love him. That's something we'll probably come on to, I guess.
Well, I don't know. They like him at his most respectable, I guess.
They like his actresses.
That's true. They don't necessarily like him that much. Yeah. That's a good point. Because he does get. I mean, he does get. Did he get? He did get nominated, right? Or he'd be nominated for best film at least. Maybe I don't know if he.
Yes, lots of nominations.
But yeah,
Very
that
few
is
wins.
interesting. Yeah. Well, maybe that will change with Begonia potentially.
Not seen that yet. Looking forward to it. It is a remake of a Korean movie that I have a great deal of love for.
Yes.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Save the Green Planet. It's a
Yeah.
remake of, which is a nutty little movie.
Yeah, but also like one that when I watched made like, oh yeah, I can see why Yorgos would be interested in that in terms of the sort of the themes and the sort of the tone of it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. With the debauchery thing, I just want to touch on that before we move on because it's interesting that this will be Academy awarded because we're in this age now where there's this whole idea of chasteness and unnecessary sex scenes, and this sort of all of it feels unnecessary. Really, it's such a odd sort of counter to that argument. There's like a few like sex scenes that are really awkward. There's a running thing about oral sex as well, like licking them, which is a weird thing. It has all of this sex run through it, but it just has no meaning whatsoever. It is the absolute antithesis of meaningless sex in this movie. It's odd.
Yeah, you didn't wonder
really.
how he feels, what sort of sex life he has had because it's just like up to probably almost up to four things. The sex scenes in his films, and we'll get to them. So we're killing a sacred deer as well. It all feels very off and strange. Well, I guess in Poor Things, there's a definite change in terms of that. That's much more about the. You can actually. Yorgos is aware you can have fun having sex.
Yes,
which
yeah.
which you wouldn't think based
I
on his
think
previous stuff.
crucially within Dogtooth, you have to view those scenes as the result as they are of grooming. These are not people who are deciding to have sex of their own. When obviously there's the sort of the sex worker who's introduced at first, and then that goes right. That's not happening, so we'll change to this, and all of it is presented to them as fact. There's no real context around it. There's none of that. So again, it's just another way for the parents to exert control on it. And the thing is, they don't know those characters don't know that they're doing anything taboo.
No.
We feel the taboo, and we are placing the taboo on them.
Yeah. No, it is interesting though. It's not a knowing. It's a knowing thing from the parents' perspective, but not, like I said, not from the we're still calling them the kids, even though they are young adults at least.
Early to mid 20s, I'd say.
Yeah. So I think that there's things like that. So you kind of have to see, you can't treat it as like, oh, this is a normal sex scene and it feels uncomfortable. It's like, well, no, this is sort of groomer-led sexual assault then. I think within the context of this film, and it's certainly how it wants to make you feel, particularly as I say, the characters have abandoned all that. They don't have the weight of it that we are placing on those acts. So it's quite a clever way to do it, really, because you feel that disquiet with it, without sort of showing a very full-on sexual assault scene then.
Because even with Christina, it's like, this isn't her job. She's like a security guard that somehow got roped to it for a bit of extra cash, basically.
Yeah.
And that's what's interesting with her, of like introducing licking to the sisters, basically, because she wanted it from him, and he, like you're saying, because he doesn't understand sex as anything more than functional or as something that's expected from him. He has no idea of like her feelings in the matter. It's just something that he's even aware of, even considering.
Yeah.
And so when she then sort of reaches out again to the younger sisters, it's she has to use it as a bargaining chip. It becomes all corrupted in this world, basically. Like even just her coming in as this the only outsider they see, that they all have a familiarity with, and an affection for. It seems like, certainly from the kid's perspective, it's still wrong. Even she can't escape this wrongness, that she's got to play this role too.
Well, I think it's interesting. You've touched on it there about she does it because she needs the extra money, and I think you can't look at this without looking at the sort of Greek economic situation at this time, and the kind of wider recession everywhere, really, as this is happening. But in Greece, it was particularly bad. So yeah, the idea that somebody would come into that situation and not flag it anyway. You know what I mean? She just kind of goes with it because it's like, well, there's money, I need money, I'm going to do this and then leave. And the kind of corrupting influence of that, I think you can build into the film.
Yeah,
I think around that time, the country of Greece actually went bankrupt.
Yes.
And needed to be bailed out by a lot of European states. So
yeah. So you've got this sort of really dire economic situation, and it's all being dealt with sort of internally, but everyone looking on and being like, well, what are they doing over there? Which, if you wanted to really expand what that film is doing, you could.
Yeah, it could be a form of retreat, I guess. Because he's just a guy. The dad is just someone who works in the factory. The mum is just stayed at home.
Yeah.
So it is, again, you wonder, like, where is he getting the money from?
Any closing thoughts on Dogtooth before we move on to Killing of a Sacred Deer?
No, because that's my favourite.
So the sooner the better.
Yeah, I'm going to need walking through this one because this is my first time. Killing of a Sacred Deer we'll move on to, and I'm not sure what I really think of it yet.
Interesting.
So, what is Killing of a Sacred Deer? I mean, you could talk about on a sort of fable level. It's simply eye for an eye, but what is it about on a sort of moment-to-moment level?
It's another happy family for a Lanthimos film. I guess, Colin Farrell, Nicole Kidman seem to have a sort of, at least, maybe not like a perfect life, but like certainly a very well-organized life. But so his name's Stephen, but Colin Farrell's character, is also having these meetings with Martin, who by young Barry Keoghan, who I think this is my introduction to him. I don't, and
Mhm.
and I think based on this film, I assumed he was American. I had no idea he was Irish until obviously later. But yeah, so he has his meetings with this boy, who he turns out, Stephen had. He had died on the operating table while Stephen was working on him, so he's now sort of built this relationship with Martin as some sort of penance. But we soon learn that Martin actually wants more than that, and as you alluded to, Rob wants revenge of like you. And he says in a very fast monologue to sort of get it out as quickly as possible because he's being rushed by Stephen, who's trying to sort of limit their interactions. Like, okay, right, this is what it is. You killed someone in my family. So now you have to kill someone of yours, and he basically has somehow affected the family, or they are going to go through 4 stages of deterioration. Of start with paralytic limbs, refuse to eat, and then eventually bleed from the eyes. In a matter of hours, they'll be dead. And so he's got it's a ticking time bomb, which only kicks in. Well, the bomb is sort of like almost like acknowledged about like I don't know 30 minutes in, but then doesn't start going off until about an hour in, and then the rest of the hour is this long, slow, drawn out tortures of Stephen trying to find his ways out of this situation that he can't possibly get out of. And yeah, it's horrible.
Yes.
But also my favorite as well.
This is why we're here talking about Yorgos Lanthimos on a Tuesday evening, isn't it? Because wrong uns, basically. Yeah, so this is also like the first film in which Barry Keoghan just menaces the shit out of a family by being sort of aggressively bisexual. Like, what's not to like?
Absolutely.
He's got his niche.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
It's a great
So-
subgenre.
There's another one for the very small silly genres for you.
Yeah.
Or the uncut. Films with Barry Keoghan is the literal devil. Yeah.
He's also ageless as well because
Honestly,
his
yeah.
character is 16 in this, but I
Yeah.
looked it up and he was 25, and that's a young looking
Gosh.
25-year-old.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
for me, it was just it's hard to sort of process because it has that stilted delivery, which he seems to have abandoned now. I don't know how you'd word it. It's sort of monotone. I mean, the way I described it in The Lobster is basically a romantic comedy where everybody speaks like Dougal from Father Ted, and they speak like that here too. But it's in this much more menacing situation. So
Well, it's interesting that he wrote the script for this one, whereas like after this, with like Poor Things, The Favourite, Begonia, so he's working with somebody else who's writing. All kinds of kindness, he goes back to writing again, and you get the return of the weird, awkward stiltness again. So that is clearly like how he likes to write to people. But you can tell straight, even more so than The Lobster, I think, which Colin Farrell was also into. You know, Colin Farrell was attuned to it at this point. Like to get his opening scene of him and his anaesthetist just walking down the corridor and having this very monotone conversation about a watch strap, and it's like, okay, here we go. Right, this is the tone everyone is going to speak in for the entire 2 hours. So if you're not tuned into it, then you're going to have an even worse time than the film wants you to have.
Oh, I mean, tuned into it. It's just it feels very comedic, but it's just completely. I wouldn't say the Killing of a Sacred Deer isn't funny, because it is. At some point, it's very funny, which probably says a lot about me. But
it's funnier than Dogtooth.
yes, it is.
I guess
Sorry,
so.
David Lynch.
I guess so. I think Dogtooth, the whole thing feels like a joke, which I guess Killing a Sacred Deer is a long build up to a punchline, I guess, in a way.
Yeah.
But I think this has more of the I can't even describe like the Lanthimos slapstick. Like so much of like Bob trying to walk is funny. Like him just I'm going to go to the window now and just falls out of bed.
Just ragdolling his kids as well. It's
there's something just I think because everything is so clinical to some degree and like stark. They just have to sound like this very physical moment is jarring and so then funny, but also usually horrible.
And of course, no one reacts in a normal way to it because and that sort of increases that discomfort then because it's like no one really picks him up. It's just like, oh, he's gone. You know, like everyone is so detached within this. But I remember like seeing a tweet some years ago talking about how in sort of probably from like 2005 through to 2011, everyone was trying to make Colin Farrell like your big like movie poster guy, and he was going to be and actually we all find out he's a brilliant weird little guy, and now he does that
Yeah,
all the time, and he's
Absolutely.
fantastic.
yeah.
Same thing happened with Nicholas Hoult in The Favourite. I feel that was like him, like that and Mad
Oh,
Max cemented Nicholas Hoult as
yeah.
weird little guy roles, and that's his
Yeah.
niche, and he's good at it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and Colin Farrell, as you said, he's really attuned to the kind of Lanthimos delivery then, because he's brilliant in The Lobster, and he's brilliant in this as well. I just think he picks up on that, and obviously it's a totally different way of working.
Mm.
So it's really interesting that he's taken to it so well, because imagine getting like Colin Farrell blockbusters where he's just like reeling off lines when you could have this. Like, it's so much more exciting.
Yeah, I think from what I hear, Lanthimos is very collaborative. I think he's always been that way. Like, I probably remember he comes from a theatre background as well, so that's probably again why he gets such great performances and gets such great actors involved, because he's someone who's very open to giving space for all the actors to do things, who also clearly respect what his vision is, because like I said, they're giving performances for a Lanthimos film. Like, if you put that performance in Alexander or whatever, like it would just be, what the hell is this? It only works within this constraint, but also clearly they are given the space to fully embrace everything that's been asked of them.
Yeah.
And of course it's a horror movie, this. And I think the most direct way that you're ever going to see a Yorgos Lanthimos type do a horror movie, which is to say it's not a horror movie in the slightest. He's a complete contrast here, because in its essence it is basically a revenge story.
Yes.
But it's completely robbed of emotion or passion, and it's just so matter of fact. The scene where he says, "Oh, by the way, I've put a curse on your family, and if you don't kill one of your kids, you're all going to die. So deal with that. Bye." It's
Similar
so
to
odd.
Similar to Dogtooth, there's things it just doesn't explain. Like, I feel like, I mean, unless I missed something, it doesn't really explain how he's doing it, or what he's sort of like literally, in a literal, if you want to be literal about it, on a literal, what is he doing beyond some sort of psychological manipulation or some place, because
It's
they're going
not
to the
like the
hospital.
character from Curse, where he has like not
Sure,
Cure,
yeah,
sorry, where he has this like routine. He just it happens.
It's just able to do it, because the doctors can't find anything wrong with the children when they're in there, and the boy's in there for like most of the film, and there's like, we just let him go because there's nothing we can see, even though he's clearly not well.
Yeah.
And that's scary.
I think that's the interesting thing as well, because like we were talking before about, you're getting no exposition, you're just dropped in. It doesn't care why it's doing that. The kind of importance is based on, this desperate farce then of like, how do I stop this from happening? And as you say, Rob, the matter of factness of that, of just being like, well, this is what I got to do, and this is what's going to happen. And it's interesting, the 4 stages, when you compare that to the stages of the dog training in Dogtooth, and it's sort of, again, this kind of very rigid thing of, these things must happen in sequence, and that's all there is. And it doesn't matter how stupid it is and how misguided, or even if Martin doesn't particularly want to do it, because at first he's very affectionate towards Stephen, but it's just like, no, that's what's written, that's what we got to do. And I think it sort of brings to light another, it's less kind of overt in this than something like Dogtooth, but certainly that sort of kickback against conformity for conformity's sake. And it's like, right, just because this thing is written down that it has to happen this way, you are going to do it. And I think you are meant to feel by the end quite empty, because no one's really achieved anything they wanted.
Nope. They just sat in this cafe at the end. This very slow-mo scene at the end of like, so he's killed one of his family. The surviving family are in this cafe, and Martin walks in, and it's like, oh, this is this big confrontation. No, they don't. I don't think they say anything to each other. They barely look at each other, and just leave, and just separate. And it's like, that's just an event that's happened in both their lives, and they're now just gonna have to carry on, knowing this has happened, and yeah, just be reminded of how empty everything is. And I think it's interesting. Again, I've been lucky enough. I saw Bugonia at Fantastic Fest, and I
Oh,
think
cool.
it's an interesting because there's a secret screening, and I think there's an interesting comparison of people being put in situations and there's no one around to help them, and so they just and even if they wanted to reach out to them, it doesn't feel like they feel isolated, even just in like location because they're both set in America as well, and so they're both these two groups of people it lost in this big city because essentially you got a lot of shots of like how big this city is, and there's just this little family drama just in the middle of it. It's horrible family tragedy that's happening in the middle of it, and nobody is even aware of it or can help them, and all they can do is just try and find a way out. And Stephen just can't. This is, and in the end, with Stephen, I don't know what I'm saying about Begonia, but with Killing a Sacred Deer, Stephen just has absolutely no way out. And even then, it was interesting. He still tries to avoid responsibility all the way through. Like, there's a great bit where he talks about like, a surgeon can never kill a patient. It would be the anaesthetist's fault. But then his wife Nicole Kidman talks to the anaesthetist, and he says the exact opposite. Like, no, anaesthetist can never kill. Surgeon would be the one responsible. So again, and even by the end, he has to blindfold himself and go by pure random chance
Yeah.
to do this. He can't. At no point can he accept full responsibility because he can't accept that he would actually have to make this sort of decision outside of anything he's ever had to decide before. Even though he's a literal surgeon, even though the film opens with like open heart surgery. Basically, this is sort of like, on a day-to-day basis. He makes those decisions all the time. I guess that's
Yeah.
what this aspect of, and he so becomes numb to that. Even the anaesthetist says about he's asked about his patient for 3 years. He goes, "Oh, there's been so many." But then when it becomes personal, when he has to make this sort of decision, he can't deal with it at all. And yet, it's all delivered in this monotone way. It's not like going in terms of the performance or even the tone. It's not like big flappy. Oh God, what am I going to do? Panic. It's just this dread of like, how am I going to get out of this? Because there's realizing that you can't. It's inevitable.
Yeah. And that lack of
Yeah.
exposition really helps, because if it was a
Yeah.
more traditional piece, there'd be, I don't know, some local expert that he hunts down and finds and gives him some sort of like lead to chase before it inevitably failed. It's just okay. Well, it's just leave
Yeah,
a bit
because you do
there,
get.
I guess.
It's funny because you get clues like scattered throughout. Like you get he's at an event and someone asks him a drink. He says, "Oh no, I don't drink. I haven't drunk for 3 years." Then later on, you hear Martin say like, "Oh yeah, my mum's not been the same since what happened 3 years ago." And these are just like bits of dialogue just sort of scattered through and sort of pieced together. And I guess you get a bit of, when he used to sort of just explain it a bit more blatantly about what
Yeah.
happened. But like you say, it's not like and this is what it's all about. It's just all dropped in. Like even the catalyst of the film of he's poisoned the people just rushed out. It's just directly spoken, and that's that. And then we're going to carry on. And I think this is why I like sometimes feel on with Garth Marenghi or like Subtext is for Cowards, because it's like if you could say something directly, but then actually like follow through on it, like say like, okay, this is what's going to happen, and then the characters have to then deal with that being spoken, being said out loud, that happening, and you roll with it. It can be really unsettling and really lead you into really interesting directions, I think.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think as well it's the kind of absurdity that he's driven to is sort of the point of it as well, of like what would possess you to choose that as a method to dispatch. And as you say, it's kind of trying to avoid that responsibility, because I mean he's a surgeon and obviously there are enhanced rates of psychopathy amongst surgeons, like generally,
Right. Okay.
because psychopaths make really good surgeons because they're able to detach from what's on the table and just make very flat decisions,
Mhm.
which obviously if you've got someone poking about with your heart is what you want in a person. But it's very interesting that Stephen isn't presented like that at all, because as you say, it's been made personal and it's his sort of lineage and his very cozy life that's at risk, so he has to fight for that, um, but he's completely ill-equipped to do so.
Mm. There's that great scene where he goes to the school and asks for like, the school reports and just ask about that. How have they been doing? And then just flatly ask like, which one do you think is the best? Which one do you think
Yeah.
is better? Again, it's and that like maybe like earlier on or in like so complete other context would be just that'd be a really funny scene as a parent asking a teacher, but in this scene, knowing why he's asking it is funny and it's like, oh Christ, this is what it's come to. Is he's just asking which one is better?
Yeah.
That's how I have to decide.
And it's almost like this desperate thing of him trying to bring some logic into it.
Yeah.
It's like, right, if I don't kill the one who's better, then I can still win in some
Yeah.
bizarre way. Whereas if I kill the good one and I'm left with the lesser one, I've kind of stuffed myself up. So the fact that they are entirely equal and that has kind of been removed is a really interesting thing. As you say, the curse is sort of an incredible thing because yes, it works and it's like, is it suggestion? But it's not really suggested to the kids. It's suggested to him.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
kind of, and there's a sense that he doesn't really tell them about it. So it's I love that about it because sometimes in films you can just have a bit of magic and things can just happen and you don't need to explain it to death.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
The way it sets that up as well is playing into the whole idea of this being quite a funny movie. There's a sequence in the kitchen where the husband and wife, I forget what she's called now. What's the actor who he's married to? Terrible with names.
Oh, it's Nicole Kidman, but yeah,
Nicole
Oh yes, Nicole Kidman. And Nicole Kidman and Colin Farrell are arguing, and he says, "Oh, I just need some pubes and some virgin's blood," and he just throws the kitchen about, and it's this one outburst of emotion in the entire thing. Really, having this bit of a strop in the kitchen, and it's his knack of dialogue is brilliant, really,
Yeah.
because that is a very very funny scene, but it shouldn't be. It's this point of desperation, really, for both of the characters.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's
'Cause
making jokes about pubes during this, which is the oddest, sort of most unaware moment to do it, really.
Yeah, and I mean, we've got to obviously touch on the spaghetti scene because it's incredible. Why are we watching it? Why are we watching it with such? And I think again, it's this great thing that Yorgos Lanthimos does, which is just switch the camera on an actor and let them go. Give them the words, give them what they're gonna do, and see how that goes. And just let it run and run. And that's definitely something that Haneke has done previously, and all these kind of long takes that just invite you to lean in, really. And you're sort of, as it's getting more and more messy, you're kind of questioning why you're still watching. Yeah, beautifully sinister bit of work that.
Yeah, there's a nice little cameo in there too for Alicia Silverstone.
Yeah,
which was is that what I think it is? Moment.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and she makes a again not small too much. She makes a similar appearance in Begonia. It was like, wait a second, that's
Really?
that's an unexpected collaborator of yours. Alicia Silverstone, apparently. I love that.
Yeah.
There's always I'm really fascinated by the Yorgos Lanthimos' like pop culture references. Like they're watching Groundhog Day. It's very awkward. The daughter Kim, I think, doing an a cappella version of Ellie Goulding. But then it's like across all his films. It's like, again, we mentioned there's a bit in Dogtooth where it's like, can we listen to Grandad sing? It's like, yeah, and it's Frank Sinatra singing "Fly Me to the Moon." Yes, he's very specific. He's the way even the way he uses pop culture is always like, oh, these are things that are familiar and well loved, but in this context, it's just a bit odd. It's just a bit,
Yeah. He extends that to his jokes as well. With the Alicia
Yeah.
Silverstone bit, she ends that scene saying, "I'm not going to let you leave until you've ate some of my pie." And it's like, it's just a dumb joke, really. But it doesn't never feels that way in his hands.
Yeah.
No, there's this great way of just as well introducing people that feel completely fleshed out immediately. And you just understand completely what they are in that moment for the purpose they serve, in a weird way, because you know nothing else concrete basically, but you could just feel those people. You're just really, really interestingly well-rounded people that you just get instantly. It's very, for something which has work that wants to hold you at arm's length sometimes, it's really easy to get lost in those characters, which you wouldn't think, given the stilted delivery and the odd performance and everything like that. But it works. You do find yourself leaning into it.
It definitely builds in these things. Like there's this recurring thing about whose job it is to like water the flowers, and how like okay,
Yeah.
Bob is told like Bob, you should right, Bob, you're going to water the flowers. Like, oh, mum will do it. Like, yeah, she always does it, but we're trying to take
You
some
just
weight
say
off
that.
her.
The fact that a young lad like that calls himself Bob, I just find that very funny. Like a young man has like an old man's name. I don't know, but it's something about
Yeah, not Rob. I guess Robert's not. Well, yeah. Oh, I
Bob.
guess he
It's
was
always
obviously
Bob.
Bob as well. Yeah, strange.
I think his 11-year-old calls himself Bob. It's just maybe it's an Americanism. I don't know, but I just find it deeply funny and kind of weird.
Yeah, but actually, even just that scene alone, you can see how he sort of does stand out a little bit from the family, because the daughter sort of seems quite well. She seems to be the favorite to some degree. It feels like, or at least there's a lot of like. I mean, obviously, I know she's older, but a lot of sort of responsibility put on her. And it's interesting how she's sort of I suppose she's sort of develops that awareness by the end, of where she starts to sort of try and manipulate Stephen a bit, of like, because she becomes aware again, like you said, I don't think he's ever spelled out to exactly what the situation is, but she becomes aware of like there's going to be a choice here,
Yeah.
and she starts to sort of play into Stephen a bit more and try and push Bob further away and alienate him more. Which again, is just horrible. Again, it's so insidious, and again, it's all just sort of just there to see, and it's nothing. And again, Stephen is helpless, and we are helpless. We're just watching this, and I know it's I think a little bit obvious comparison like of Greek tragedy, obviously, but not just because the director's Greek, but it is definitely built that in the structure. Like it lays out early on what the tragedy is going to be, and you're just going to watch it play out as these characters wrestle with their reality crumbling around them, basically, and what they do in that situation, basically.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah. I think I need to see it again just to wrestle with it personally. But
yeah, I think even seeing it, like, it's only the second time I've seen it, but even like it's still uncomfortable. But I think it, like no matter how many times you see it, because it's just built into the film to make you feel unpleasant, or make it feel unpleasant.
Yes, it does. So unless there's anything else about Killing of a Sacred Deer, before we jump on to the favourite,
No, I think
which represents a completely different avenue of what he does. It's effectively the comedy strain of Yorgos Lanthimos, represented by, I mean, I'm calling Poor Things a comedy, and The Lobster. And I've heard people are very anti this movie because it's not particularly historically accurate, which I don't think it ever suggests it's going to be, really.
Yeah,
no.
But yes, what is the favourite? 2018 is the favourite.
Go on, Mike. You've been really good at explaining
Oh
everything.
god,
I've enjoyed this.
Oh, thank you. Well, I guess I have no idea what year this even is, but it's the Court of Queen Anne. It's like 17 or 18.
1700s, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, Court of Queen Anne, who is a not well woman, but is still queen, and so as it goes, she's still in charge, and everyone does about her whim, except. We have Sarah, or known as Lady Marlborough, or also I can't remember what the nickname that they give each other is. Anyway, because she calls Queen Anne Mrs. Morley because they've known each other since she's their children, but she has sort of become basically her right hand woman of being able to sort of make all the political decisions for the Queen and sort of gear things going, and that's all seems to be going really nicely for her. And then her cousin, the distant cousin Abigail, shows up because apparently her father seems to have burned a house down, and she was like a lady, and now their reputation's all in ruins. So she's come seeking help from her distant cousin, and so she puts work in the doing the basic work of like cleaning shit literally, probably, but has ambitions and starts to work her way up so that she will become the favorite of Queen Anne, and it all gets a bit sexy, a bit weird, a bit funny, and a bit sad in the classic Yorgos way, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, aren't you glad I didn't explain that? Look at that, succinct, to the point. Excellent. Be here 3 days later if I did.
And this is one of my favourites. You know, I mean, the title suggests it should be, but just the way it plays out. I think I prefer this avenue of Yorgos Lanthimos because he has such a very dry wit when it comes to his comedy, which I'm amazed that it has any sort of international appeal because it just sort of plays into British and Irish sort of deadpan sentimentality, really.
Yeah. Well, again, this is like a British writing. I say duo because it was. For bad, I forgot to write their names down. But it was originally a script by the woman writer. Whose name I can't remember.
Yeah, it's an adaptation of the novel.
Right, there we go.
Yeah.
And then the Tony McNamara did a sort of rewrite of it, but obviously her work is obviously a big part of the building blocks of the story. So I think that's interesting seeing him direct someone else's words because I mean, again, they're not his words, but the way they're delivered. There's so many quotable lines in this. That alone makes it a great comedy because there's so many funny lines in it. But you also got sort of the Lanthimos slapstick, and obviously you got Olivia Colman giving, she got the applause she was deserving for all these years, because she's very well known in Britain. But this was obviously a massive, massive breakthrough for her, and she throws it all into what is like again on the page is a physical performance, but she completely goes for it. And again, as we talked about, Lanthimos allows the space for actors, encourages people to go further than perhaps they normally would do, and she is throwing herself on the floor, throwing it up into buckets, stuffing stuff into her face, letting herself be called a badger. One of my favorite bits is when she's walking past, she having been insulted by a close friend about her makeup. She goes past the page boy and says, "Don't look at me! Look at me! How dare you!"
Yeah.
She's obviously absolutely perfect. But I think what's perfect is that she is very funny, but it is a character. It's a full-rounded sadness of his character. You have these rabbits that we learned, the 17 rabbits they had are the 17 children that she had, which again is, and I remember Olivia Colman talking about this is a woman who gave birth 17 times and they all died. What would that do to a person? And you can feel that. It doesn't even necessarily again, doesn't explicitly state these sorts of things, but you can just see it all in her face, when she's watching Sarah dance at one point, and she's she's clearly enjoying it, and then just her face just slowly falls. And again, that's Lanthimos having faith in his actor, that he could just hold the camera there, and we could just watch Olivia Colman's face just transform in 20 seconds, and you get a whole thought process there.
Yeah. I mean, I was reading a bit earlier about how difficult it was for them to actually sell that novel, and because it had very little male representation, and they thought that it wouldn't do very well. So it's not until Film 4 get involved with a bit of money and start sort of having some faith in it, that it goes. And it's interesting because, obviously we get new weird little guy Nicholas Hoult coming in.
Wonderful.
He's fantastic in this. I mean, he's great, and I have to be honest, I'm one of the biggest Renfield fans there is, and I know it's very light touch and very light and everything like that, but it's adorable, and he is great because he just gets to be a little weird guy. More of that, I think.
Absolutely, yeah.
He does a wonderful Victorian era sort of fop.
Yes, yeah.
With his
sort of
ridiculous
vaguely
wig
useless.
Where he pushes Abigail down the hill.
Yeah, and again, that's that Yorgos Lanthimos slapstick coming back. That sort of, and obviously he's allowed to be way more overt with it here because it is a comedy. And it's interesting in a way because obviously this was pitched as, it's, if you look at the poster, it looks like a period drama. It looks very respectable. Oh, it's got Oscar nominations. So let me tell you, I was once in a gym changing room with two women who were at least 70 years old, who had just come from seeing The Favourite. and were not thrilled by what they'd seen. And one was very, very heavily blaming the other one. You said it was a period drama. Well, I thought it was. So I kind of love, given that the Academy do have a bit of standoffishness from anything kind of too bawdy or too sort of salacious, that actually this got a lot of respectability from that. And then people saw it and it's this great sort of historical bonking comedy. Can't be beaten.
Yeah, but also like just I think it's also just it doesn't hold it with any reverence at all.
Yeah.
You've got them throwing tomatoes at a naked guy, racing ducks around,
Yes.
just being absolute pricks, all of them, because the whole court. I mean, just showing how hollow and empty this is. Like, all these cavernous halls that they walk around in this court. It's like, what are you meant to do? You just meet up in this room to occasionally listen to what the Queen has to say, and then get on with the rest of your day. Meanwhile, there's a war going on somewhere that they briefly give a shit about if it will please their cohort. So it just exposes the hollowness of that.
I mean, that's the beauty of it, really. I mean, personally, the whole period drama piece, subgenre, however you want to define it, is one of the worst excesses of British cinema.
Yes.
Because most of them are basically, here are some posh people and here are their frocks. Let's just stay with them and have their dating problems or something. It's like, who cares, really? And Yorgos Lanthimos knows that, you know, it's ripe for sort of parodying, really. And he gets a great deal of mileage out of it, what Mike was saying there, just showing how ridiculous this whole escapade is, really. And I mean, even sort of in a historical sense, having so many powerful women in this situation, when in history they would never get this sort of opportunity. It's so counter genre stereotypes and historical accuracy that it becomes quite liberating within those confines.
Yeah, I think it's also, as I've said before, like, we love messy women and sort of unpleasant women, because I think there's sort of, sometimes there's a respectability around women, which means they can never be the silliest person in the room. And in this, they are all taking turns to be the silliest person in the room. And that is really refreshing. Because, again, I was reading something about Emma Stone originally wasn't interested in Abigail because she thought, oh, it's too soft a role and this and that. And then she read a bit more and then she's like, no, okay, please cast me, Because it had that bite and that sort of clumsiness and, you know, ambition then that she plays marvelously as well.
It's so interesting watching this in a post-Paul things world, because this feels like, this was like Emma Stone being daring at the time, but then this, like, there's
it still was.
Yeah, for sure. But like since then, like how far she goes in Poor Things and what she goes, like, again, she's worked obviously Yorgos on like I think 4 films now. Like it's mad to think that she almost didn't do the favor. Like what other avenue would she have gone down? Because it feels like this must have opened up a whole new world for her to explore, because she's so well suited to his style. She's so willing to go there. Yeah, even just being able to deliver lines of like when a soon-to-be husband walks in, like, are you here to rape me or seduce me? Like, I'm a gentleman. Rape them.
Yeah,
deliver those
Which is
lines.
such an underrated line, I've got to say. So sneaky.
And then with like this and killing a sacred deer, got have furious wanking scenes where nobody seems to really enjoy it. Hilarious.
Yes. I think as well she delivers everything like a bit of a stroppy teenager in a lot of ways, which again is sort of, you have them regressing so much, and particularly Anne, obviously, and her kind of performance, and yeah, you're right about the sort of tragedy of it, but that doesn't take away from the fun it has along the way and the kind of fun it finds in that, because it's like, okay, yeah, she's had all these terrible things happen to her, but she is still the figurehead of this incredibly wealthy scenario, so let's not feel too sorry for her.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know, because that's the environment they all want to be in, and if it, if you'll do it, it'll be done to you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's when you
we've
said
not mentioned
about
Rachel Weisz either,
oh
Oh,
who
gosh.
is a complicated character and completely terrifying at the same
Mm.
yes,
time.
But can rock a
Um,
suit like no man could. Not
yes.
since the Mummy has Rachel Weisz been this hot. Like, good lord.
Every day I get up and I say a little swear word at Daniel Craig. Um, every day. But yeah, I mean, as well, Rachel Weisz is in The Lobster as well. So
Mm.
she is another one of those performers who feels really attuned to the way Yorgos Lanthimos wants to do things.
Mhm.
And I always think that kind of recurring work with a director is a good sign.
Definitely,
Because it usually means they've had a pretty good experience.
yeah.
Um,
Of
you
course,
know,
Olivia
yeah.
Colman was in The Lobster as well, of course. So she
yes.
I mean,
has,
it
yeah.
just furthers my theory of the people who make the weirdest, most debauched, and questionable movies are actually just really good people to work with.
Mhm.
Well,
You
yeah, I
have to,
mean, I always
yeah.
get very irritated about like auteur theory as a kind of
Oh, yeah.
scapegoat for bad behavior because you have
Mm.
someone like David Lynch, and I know I talk about him a lot, but let's talk about him all the time. And he has these very sort of intricately constructed worlds with a lot of weird, a lot of unpleasant stuff, but he is widely regarded as lovely. He doesn't
Mhm.
raise his
Yes.
voice at people. There's like that one cut where he's like, "Okay, let's try it again, but good," and that's all he says. There's no abuse, there's no yelling, there's no throwing anything, and I think he's like the perfect antithesis of like your mad scientist author that is like, oh well, if
You,
you've
you
you know
Kubricks, you know.
yeah, absolutely, yeah. So I think that's the thing, returning sort of performers is usually a good sign.
Yeah, I think
um
it's a sign of
Yeah.
trust because clearly, like,
yeah,
the actors clearly trust him because they're doing all of this and they're trusting that it's being filmed in the right way and all, and he clearly trusts them to be able to go that big and know, like, be able to have that relationship with them. Yeah, like I say, like with Lynch or I mean, Yorgos clearly
It's
has that as well.
it's how a guy with no mainstream sensibilities in his body really
mm,
commands some of the
Yeah,
best casts that you could
absolutely,
really get. Really,
yeah,
absolutely, yeah.
he's put this material in a much more harsh director, and I don't think you get even remotely close to the same sort of
Mm.
mm,
collection of people involved.
Yeah, because it never feels with a favorite. It never feels mean. Like, or it all feels like fair. I guess because they're all these privileged, one literally royalty in one case. Like it's about, like, yes, it's not compared to something like, I guess something like, what's it called, The Madness of King George, which is similarly about
mm,
like a monarch who had bad, to put it bluntly, a monarch with bad mental health. That is much more reverential in the sense of, like, and much more sympathetic of, like, oh, look how sad this is. Whereas, like you were saying, Kate, with Lady Anne's, like, we can say, like, we can have fun watching this woman who's clearly unwell shouting at children playing music too loudly, while
yeah,
also realizing that she has been through a lot of shit, but
mm,
is also still in power and is still in a position where what she says goes, and it's being able to have both those things of, like, we can sort of look at her as a sort of monstrous figure in a way for what she represents, but also feel some pity for how people try and exploit her, as, like, Abigail, and to some extent Sarah does. Although, like, that you can obviously argue which way of whether what the nature of their relationship, which is interesting.
yeah. I mean as well, it's the thing of she is holding on to monarchy when she is
Yeah.
too ill to serve, and that sort of foible makes her open to manipulation.
Hmm.
So every manipulation is actually her own fault. And I guess you could look back at Killing of a Sacred Deer, and it's like, yeah, Stephen's decision to drink before he operates sets the wheels in motion for all of his undoing. It's always that people have made a decision that down the line comes back to bite them then, and they don't really learn from that, and they don't really have sensible ways of getting out of that. They just have to you know watch the runaway train go.
Yeah, like when
Hmm.
when, like, Sarah goes missing And she goes, "Wow, she's just playing a prank, so I'm not going to go find her." And then the minute she wants her, it's like, "Well, everyone's got to find her immediately. Why haven't you done that already?" And that has allowed, obviously, Sarah to build up some more resentment, basically, towards and start fracturing that relationship. So yeah, again, all these things, and again, this is something he brings out from the script.
Yeah. It feels much more nuanced than your standard game of one-upsmanship that you get with, elsewhere, really. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you're saying, Kate, about with Abigail, like she's a bit clumsy. It's like, yeah, because the narrative in many ways presents her as like this great schemer who works her way up into the Queen's confidence, but like she has incredibly shallow goals. Really, she just wants a bit of prestige. She just wants to be a lady, and once she's got that, she doesn't really give a shit about maintaining any sort of pretense, really. And then that's what's interesting about the very final like shot, which is this very sort of somber, odd, weird note of the sort of overlay of the rabbits while Abigail's just rubbing the Queen's legs, and it's like nobody's happy. This whole thing is just hollow. Any sort of power they feel they have is like, what's it even worth? Because here I am just rubbing the Queen's legs, and from my hand's perspective, I'm having someone I don't give a shit about, really, rubbing my legs just because I like like how her tongue feels. Yeah, that's what's, again, it's always sort of puncturing of like what you sort of expect from a drama like this, really, in terms of the tone.
And I think it's also the thing of him again skewering the idea of status or of, authority then and conformity, because it's like, right, you wanted to be in this position because you thought it meant this, and actually it means this, or it's entirely meaningless. Because unless you're the actual monarch, it's not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it goes to great then. It's just like her backstory. She was gave away in a game of cards to a overweight German.
Yeah.
It goes to talk about. It completely skewers the whole idea of the aristocracy or the upper class as being our betters.
Yeah.
Which,
and I think it's far more true to reality than a lot of the historical books have cleaned up.
Yeah,
I
for sure.
think a lot of things would be closer to the favorite than they like to think about.
Yeah. So in terms of their character and their attitudes, and
Yeah.
There's not a lot of movies like this. I mean, maybe Barry Lyndon has that same sort of. The royals and the aristocracy are just kind of messed up individuals, but
because I never saw it, but like, there's the Catherine the Great TV show, which I know it's
Oh,
like this
yeah.
whole tale. I think it was written by Tony McNamara, or one of them at least. Which I think is sort of, when it was advertised, it just felt like they're basically selling this off. Like, this is like The Favourite, but it's a TV show about a different monarch.
Yeah, and Nicholas Hoult being another weird little guy.
Exactly.
Yeah. I guess what you call is like that too. What's she called? Shouldn't have brought that up. Now I've completely forgotten it. French. Let them eat cake. She was about
Marie
16.
Antoinette.
Marie Antoinette.
The Kirsten Dunst one.
That one, yeah. That has a similar sense of the royals are ridiculous.
Yeah.
Which it's a pity that we can really only name a few things on one hand, really, and they're held in such unquestionable esteem that
it is hilarious that Olivia Colman would go for this to then play the Queen in The Crown, which obviously, as far as I gather, it plays it much more, as we've been sort of basically complaining about, of how they treat the royals, which is weird of that a bit. But again, it's been great. It's just great to have Olivia Colman have this showcase.
Oh yeah,
and then gone on to like even bigger things.
Such a brilliant physical performance as well, because the character is effectively slowly dying throughout the entire movie, and it's all communicated in such small, subtle ways, and also very unsubtle ways at the same time.
But, and it's worth it for all the hilarious award speeches that she had to give. So everyone fall in love with her even more.
Yes. I think what he particularly does for actresses, obviously by giving them these really complex, interesting, physical, often silly roles, is it does bring out that performance. It does make it more notable. I mean, would Olivia Colman have got that in a more sober piece,
Mhm.
maybe not. I mean, they love a biopic, but
Yeah.
because and this is the wonderful thing as well, is most of the sort of stuff is biopic. It's like, oh, here's this monarch who we know a certain amount about, and there's this doesn't feel like Olivia Colman doing an impression of a monarch. She very much feels very fleshed out within the context of that film. And again, it's like I was speaking about before, you know, as soon as you see each character and you've had like a minute with each of them, you go, I understand everything about that character, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, and their relationships with each other as well. Like, you know, I think like the first scenes, like her and Sarah, and you really get a sense of like, okay, so these two, she can speak this familiar with the Queen, and that in a way is perfect because that means that we don't just see her as the Queen. She's not introduced in grand, but I know she's obviously in a grand big house.
Yeah.
And that's where we get like all the sort of more modern techniques, I guess, how it's filmed of like the fisheye lens and stuff and everything, sort of, and the slow mo, and this is not shot
Is
like
that
a normal.
the
It's got all the trappings, but it's all shot in this distorted, unreal way.
Yeah.
is that the first time that he started employing that fisheye technique? Because
I
it's
think
very
so.
extreme in here.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think so. Yeah, and I remember my dad went to see it, and his thing was like, "Oh, the music was a bit weird." That's all.
brilliant.
I mean, it's great, but
The same with Killing of a Sacred Deer, which I forgot to
oh
bring
yeah,
up. It has this sort of very rhythmic noise underscoring everything, just making it that little bit more unsettling.
yeah.
Yeah.
You get that hilarious dance scene in this as well, as it was and in Dogtooth as well. There's very finding like awkward dancing.
Yeah.
Weird looking dance. Again, they didn't sort of be in his favour, especially I guess that's like anachronistic of their sort of doing this almost like modern dance moves to some extent while in full regalia, which could feel jarring but doesn't because again it's all just part of his weird reality within this court. We barely actually, as well as it now, we barely ever leave the court at all. Like we get some bits outside. And even then, the like Abigail, whatever his name is, having the weird like tussling in the forest, or like just leaping at her in this sort of strange flirtatious dance, where it's like he's the one chasing her, but she's absolutely in control the whole time.
Yeah.
Flirt fighting, yeah.
Yeah.
But very different than the usual sort of seduction techniques you get in this sort of movie.
Mhm.
Yeah. There's not a lot of like chaste, like
Mm.
lingering looks or anything like that. It's rather more straightforward than that.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting that obviously, is this the first time Emma Stone works with him? Because it just
Yeah.
seems like she just fits that world
Apparently,
entirely.
Yeah.
they've worked
Absolutely.
together 7 times. What, 3 or 4 movies, a few
Yeah.
shorts, and some music videos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, she's such a likable presence anyway, that it's really fun to see her play these quite twisted characters,
Mhm.
or to see her do unusual stuff. I mean, I know not everyone liked kinds of kindness, but I did. I
Oh
thought it was
yes.
great. Also, welcome, uh, strange little man Willem Dafoe to the fold, like,
Yes. Yeah.
and
Again,
Jesse Plemons, like,
yeah.
bring
Both now
on
regular.
weird little people.
Both now regulars as well. It's like it is one where like you have one bite of Yorgos, and it's like you can't just have the one go. You gotta have
Yeah.
have a few runs with him.
Joe Alwyn as well is in
Yeah.
Favorite and Kinds of Kindness. It just seems to be
Oh,
that
okay.
like Yorgos kind of looks at people and goes, "Right, you
Hmm.
fit in this," and then he allows them to run with it, and it's quite remarkable because
Yeah.
it's something like Kinds of Kindness and Poor Things is pushing the boundaries more than something like The Favorite.
Mhm.
Um, and we also get a great dance scene in Poor Things as well.
Yes.
I mean,
And
let's segue into that. Let's talk about some of his other movies in a bit more of a concentrated way. But yeah, Poor Things. Probably his most daring since he went to Hollywood, I'd say, given the demands of Emma Stone, because that was very bold for a household name
Hmm.
actor to do something. What was it? Furious jumping, I think she refers to it.
Curious Jumping.
How she says my name is Bella Baxter, like that's stuck in my head. Like her,
Yeah.
actually, I guess they were allowed her to show off she could do an English accent, which she's now done like several
she's
times since.
seamless. You could tell me
And
she's English, and I wouldn't
yeah, because
question
pretty
it
much
for a second.
everybody else in the cast is English as well, so it's just great.
I mean, the fact that in that one, what's he called? New York actor does the Hulk. Mark
Mark
Ruffalo.
Ruffalo, yes.
Oh my
His
goodness.
English accent is extremely questionable.
Yes, but perfect for the character, because I think I saw someone say like it's almost like there's a world where that character is putting on that accent.
Yeah,
But that's
yeah.
not even the character's actual voice. He's just putting this on for the entire film. Oh gosh, he is very, very funny in that film.
It travels, that accent, very well traveled. I think he's hilarious in that film. I think he's absolutely wonderful. It might be his best work since In the Cut, to be honest.
Oh,
And I know a lot of people don't like that one, but I
they're
do.
wrong.
In the Cut is great.
Awesome.
But I think he's so deeply unsympathetic in Poor Things. And I think Mark Ruffalo's persona has always been that he is quite sympathetic and, you know, a little bit everyman. We know a lot about his behind the scenes struggles as well with being so unwell. So I think it's really, really wonderful that he just gets to play this absolutely dreadful man for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
And he's so having a good time. I think that's the difference. You can tell a lot of the time in a performance where someone is absolutely in. It's remarkable.
Yeah. And what else have we missed out on? Kind of Kindness. That's sort of in the same timeline before we loop back.
Here it came out in the same year as Poor Things, and him sort of returning to writing again. I think with the guy who wrote some of his earlier stuff with as well. And I mean, again, not for everyone kinds of guys, but I think it's these three very strange stories with sort of the same cast. I mean, that's really honest about how to talk about kinds of kindness. It's just very, very strange.
It's one I've not seen, so I can't help you on that one.
It's worth checking out, especially if you like his earlier sort of darker, edgier sides. And again, brings Jesse Plemons into the fold, who does brilliant. And again, what's great is across the film is you really get to see a showcase because you've got the same like Emma Stone, Jesse Plemons, Margaret Qualley, wonderful. So crop up across all three stories as like they're not connected at all, really. I guess thematically about love, I guess, or like relationships in some like the ways like you have Jesse Plemons who's sort of desperate to please his sort of like domineering sugar daddy sort of type, I guess, and you got like a sex cult, and then you got. One of my favorite ones, the middle one, where what is it exactly? It's been a while since I've seen it. It's basically he's convinced that his partner's been replaced.
Yes, it's the one as well with the finger that she's going to cut her finger off.
Oh yes,
yeah. All of these really like small, contained, tense little thing. It feels almost like a greatest hits of his, almost sort of a bit too blunt, I think, for people really to be like, oh, this is what a Yorgos Lanthimos film is.
Yeah. It's if you did Dogtooth but with a Hollywood cast in English, and I think that's going to be if people who had started with like The Lobster and The Favourite, or just seen Poor Things, that you're like, oh great, he's got a new film out, I can't wait to see. It'll be another fun romp. Which I think Poor Things obviously has darkness in it as well, but and it's not going to give you that. It's going to give you a different sort of humour.
I think he's really interesting as a director for both Poor Things and Kinds of Kindness by releasing very sex-heavy films into a sort of culture that is shying further and further away from sex. In media, there's more of a rejection of it. There's more of a like. There was a lot of fuss around Poor Things because certainly at the outset she's a child, and being put through these things, and it's sort of. You do kind of want to say to people, yes, outside of the film, that is true and abhorrent. Inside the film, we're dealing with something completely different. Like, she's a Frankenstein grown, like, We are dealing with very separate things.
Mhm.
And I do have to say, there was a moment during our screening of Poor Things when she's going through the morgue and
Mhm.
decides to do a little stab, stab, stab. And the gentleman sat next to me and my friend yelped so loudly. I have never heard anything like it in my life. And we cackled, obviously, that he'd been made so uncomfortable, and proceeded to cackle throughout the rest of it as well. It's very Travis Bickle effect. And yeah, it was, I had a good time. He did not. Um,
I
but yeah,
think
I think he has a very unapologetic
Yeah.
attitude to sex and nudity and the sort of taboos that go with that.
Mhm.
And because he's doing these things in a really heightened fairy tale sense, um, you're not dealing with the morality of it. You're just dealing with it within that context.
Mhm.
yeah. And the other one that we've not mentioned, The Lobster, which
Yeah.
is probably his most accessible work, but also at the same time, it has a lot of the hangover of his Greek work
Mhm.
in there too, as he
I
Mhm.
sends
think
up the
it's,
whole notion of dating conventions
yeah,
Yes.
to a ridiculous, absurd degree.
Mhm.
I think it's his most upsetting film for me.
I know what you mean, especially like there's that one scene where the woman's throwing herself out of the hotel room, and she's just lying there, her face smashed in on the floor, just moaning, and you just linger with that for what feels like forever. Um,
Yeah, because
yeah.
I think in a lot of his other films, obviously we're taking like one family and going through their kind of torment and their challenges and everything like that. I think The Lobster feels like everyone is up
Mm,
against it,
mhm.
and it
Yeah,
feels sort of more bleak for that.
Yeah,
Um,
on like an
it's a very
existential.
fatalistic movie.
mm,
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
find love, or you're going to spend the rest of existence as a animal.
as a more, yeah.
what
And
would you
Colin
choose?
Farrell, turtle. They have a pretty laid back life, pretty
They
slow,
live
pretty
forever.
chill. Yeah, exactly. You have a good old run.
Fair. Like an owl. I like owls.
No, okay, yeah, yeah. I think I'd probably go shark. Just take
Fair.
me back to the sea. Be a
Yeah,
problem about it, you know?
yeah, that's it.
On the way out, like, yeah, fine, you can do this, but I'm gonna make it really, really difficult for you.
I guess that's the thing he's good at is he's finding this like weird like that's what lobster crooks down to is like a question you sort of ask in a pub. Was I was like, oh, if
Mm,
you could be an animal, what would you be? And just
Yeah,
expands it into this existentialist, absurdist nightmare. But it all comes down crux to like, oh, if you just want, that feeling of just wanting to be with someone, and also and maybe being an animal. So these little parts of your life and then just twists it into, but always keeps it in like in that emotion. I think that's the thing. Even no matter how like that's what always can be strange. That sometimes with Yorgos it can feel like he's emotionless and detached, but it might be filmed that way, and it might be there's a degree where we're meant to be sort of like looking in, like there's a bit of
yeah.
voyeurism to some degree, but like the emotion is always there, and for the characters, it's always like this is the most important thing in the world. I think that's what you never sort of forget.
Yeah. I would say like it's his most upsetting film because it's his most sentimental.
Mm,
I think it does sort of hit on more of a kind of real unreality. You know, the idea of being lonely, the idea of like not having a
yeah.
soulmate, not having a
Mm,
partnership is more widely applicable to someone than a strange teenager has put a curse on my family. You know, like
yeah,
it's just easier to
yeah.
extrapolate those kind of emotions from it.
Yeah.
And I think yeah, it also feels bigger.
Mhm.
The others feel quite contained, and this kind of feels like this is a world in which everyone is dealing with that.
Mhm.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. Um, to wrap up, then, if he was to retire tomorrow, he's not going to. He's part of the establishment. He's a real uh, instigator, I guess. But what would his legacy be if he was to retire tomorrow as a filmmaker?
I think definitely roles for women would be a decent slice of it. I think you couldn't look at his work without seeing what it's done for Olivia Colman, for Emma Stone. I think as well I think he's signed on to do My Year of Rest and Relaxation, an
Yeah,
adaptation of that. So
that would
that
be fascinating.
again, depending on who he gets, I think that would be a phenomenal thing for an actress to do.
Mm.
Um, and that seems to be, where he lands within that, and yeah, certainly someone who is casting a critical eye against conformity in all of its forms, really.
Mike?
Yeah, I guess it's mad that he's. It's not quite a household name, but like people know the fact that more people know who he is than you would expect for someone whose films are so off-putting in many ways, and yet does garner accolades and critical and audience. Like audiences do go and see these films, and I don't think it's just because he's got Hollywood stars in. Like it's a sense of humor that appeals, but also I guess a sense of like just like a sense of drama, I guess, of like how to uh, build a story around something that should be inherently ridiculous, but is ultimately rooted in like just people making bad decisions and people going through difficult things. And I think, again, I know I'm in a position to talk about Begonia, but I think Begonia is interesting in that takes perhaps a step towards sort of like Lobster of common, especially because that's also a script by the guy who wrote the menu. So that gives you a sense of perhaps sort of thematically, tonally, it's going a bit more political to some degree, or certainly more like closer to home in some regards. But it's still got that Yorgos thing that he brings. Like we talked about, like with the favorite of yes, it's somebody else's words, but it's his world we're living in. It's even no matter what the subject matter. I think that's what's interesting. It's like his films to some degrees feel similar and there's a clear, consistent tone, but they also are very different from each other. Like Killing of a Sacred Deer is a horror. The favorite is a weird but a still period drama, and even just like the way they're shot and like the color tones and stuff. Like Poor Things looks completely different to The Lobster.
Yeah.
And not just because and even though he's got, I think it's the same. Like I think Robbie Ryan has been the same cinematographer since like The Favorite as well. So even if he still works with the same people, he's got that same darkly strange tone. He's got he's got so many possibilities open to him. So it's just interesting to see where he's going to go to next. Really,
Yeah. I mean, for me, he's just one of this generation of filmmakers that I can get behind, no matter what. There's so many of his peers who I have problems with. Let's just say, I'm not looking forward to the Villeneuve episode, the Denis Villeneuve episode. I'll say that much as a teaser for the future. But yeah, he's remarkable little idiosyncratic person who somehow managed to become part of the establishment in Hollywood.
mm-hmm.
He pulled off the greatest heist right in front of all of us, really. Much in the same way of Bong Joon-ho, how he did the
Yeah,
same thing with
Yeah.
a similar sort of route, really.
Yeah.
it's great.
It's remarkable.
It's
Yeah.
great. They can still feel like an outsider, even though they're with the the
Yeah.
top notch.
Yeah, and it just kind of goes to show what can be achieved if you sort of trust your creatives. Because
Yeah.
I think, particularly increasingly with, and I'm sorry to do it, but shit like AI that
Mm-hmm.
is sort of prescribing very set things on like, well, this is what works, and this
Mm-hmm.
is, there's kind of a joy in the idea that people are throwing money at someone like Yorgos Lanthimos to go make another weird movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Absolutely. And long may that continue.
Yes.
Definitely.
Okay, so where can we find you and the stuff you do online, Mike?
Yeah, best friend find me on socials is at Autistic Horror, where I run Autistic Guide Through Horror blog, which probably needs an update. Otherwise, I'm more likely to be writing stuff for the Geek Show, including for the Patreon, where I'm currently going through the Twilight Zone randomly, episode at a time, which has been very fun. And yeah, social where you can see me sharing any writings I do elsewhere as well.
And Caitlyn?
Yeah, I am on Twitter sparingly, at Scared Sheepless, Instagram at Scared Sheepless blog, and scaredsheepless.com is the blog. And you can also find me on a podcast called Kill Listen, which is 2 episodes in at the moment, third one in the works. And it is, this will surprise you, all about Kill List. It's a deep dive into almost every element of the film.
Yeah. It's amazing that it's got that sort of textural depth, I guess, a series out of as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, I see it. I'm not sure anyone
Oh, no. It's
After
there.
10
It's there.
hours of me just screaming into a microphone about Kill List, we'll see.
Yeah, indeed. And as I mentioned in the end of last week's episode, there's a change afoot for Uncut in the new year. We're going to be looking to talk to some indie filmmakers in a similar sort of format about movies that inspired them, as well as one of their own. So hopefully that goes down very, very well, because I'm looking forward to that. But in the meantime, you can find me across not all social media, because it's exhausting. But across Instagram and Blue Sky as Uncut Robcast. My Twitter's still active, but I think February was the last time I posted on it. So yeah. Until then, though, I'm not sure what we're going to be doing in the next episode, but stay tuned to one of those places where you'll find out. Until then, thank you very, very much for listening.